Good evening, ghosty lovers of the interwebs. I'm Alexa, the resident ooky spooky girly around here, and today I decided to branch out globally for my haunted home knowledge. I'll be honest, all I knew before today about Australia was that it produced the late great Steve Irwin and my favorite WWE superstar Rhea Ripley. Oh, and that my friends who live there have told me that if I visited alone, something cute would probably kill me. Ooh, and they have a theme park I need to visit. Question for y'all, by the way, before we get started, let me know in the comments if there are any other countries I should look into next for haunted places. But before I go off on a tangent y'all don't need to listen to, here are the top 5 scary haunted places in Australia. In 5th place, we have Port Arthur. Port Arthur is a town and former convict settlement on the Tasman Peninsula in Tasmania, Australia. The site forms part of the Australian Convict Sites, a World Heritage Property consisting of 11 remaining penal sites originally built within the British Empire during the 18th and 19th centuries on Australian coastal strips. So collectively, these sites, including Port Arthur, are described by UNESCO as the best surviving examples of large-scale convict transportation and the colonial expansion of European powers through the presence and labor of convicts. From 1833 until 1877, Port Arthur was the destination for those deemed the most hardened of convicted British criminals, those who were secondary offenders having re-offended after their arrival in Australia. Rebellious personalities from other convict stations were also sent there. In addition, Port Arthur had some of the strictest security measures of the British penal system. So, as you can imagine, that would produce some pretty scary figures still kicking around with a grudge to hold. One popular figure who has been spotted frequently goes by the moniker of Reverend George. A tour coordinator for the settlement is adamant that photos have been captured of the spirit, usually near the parsonage, which is where he's believed to have passed some time in the 1870s. One of the more fearful spirits spotted on the grounds is named John Gould, a nasty convict who enjoys leering at unsuspecting visitors, often causing younglings to throw uncharacteristic tantrums and more. All in all, apparently there are more than 2,000 reports of unexplained activity, all bundled into 20 bulging files full of sightings of ghosts and strange emotional reactions to the buildings. In 4th place, we have the Adelaide Gaol. Thought to be one of the most haunted places in South Australia, the Adelaide Gaol is said to be regularly visited by some of the inmates and prison officers who once wandered its halls. First off, Frederick, otherwise known as Fred Carr, went the way of the rope necklace on the 12th of November of 1927 for the killing of his wife, Maud. He protested his innocence, even up until the final moments before his death, exclaiming that the law required his body, but it cannot have his soul as he is innocent. Fred is said to regularly appear near the stairs leading to the upstairs cells of the new building. He is reported as a happy spirit, always neatly dressed in dark clothes and taking a polite interest in visitors wandering through his former home. Well, I'm glad one of the ghosties is chipper. Next up, we have William Baker Ashton, who was the first governor of the Adelaide Gaol, and despite being a reasonably fair man, he was accused of wrongdoing. William was a very large man, and when he died in his office in 1854, his body could not be manipulated down his apartment's steep, narrow staircase. Instead, he was unceremoniously lowered out of the front window to the undertaker's waiting below. 3 months after his death, William was exonerated, which was a little too late. On warm, still nights with a hint of thunder in the air, his footsteps are said to be heard through the walls of solid stone as he struggles to move furniture in an empty room. Finally, Ben Ellis was the hangman for 10 years, from the mid-1860s to mid-1870s, and lived in a small apartment below what became the female dormitory. Ben took pride in his work and approached each task with complete professionalism and never questioned the right or wrong of his profession until the 30th of December of 1873, when he was required to hang a female prisoner, Elizabeth Woolcock. She was to be the first and only woman executed in South Australia. So this event changed the way Ben viewed his profession forever, and his restless spirit is said to appear often throughout the residence. In 3rd place, we have the Monte Cristo Homestead. The 2-story Victorian manor was built by pioneer Christopher William Crawley in the New South Wales town of June in 1885 before his homestead became riddled with death and now claims to be the most haunted house in Australia. To be specific, a stable boy burned to death, a tiny human was thrown down the stairs, a maid was lobbed off a balcony, and a caretaker kaboomed to death, among others. Pardon me, I jumped straight to the good stuff without the history. Christopher Crawley first built the mansion in, 1885, where he lived with his wife Elizabeth, their 7 kiddos, and a series of servants. He was a wealthy farmer and landowner who had made his fortune in Junee, a small town in the Riverina region, after the Great Southern Railway line opened in 1878. With the success of his hotel and land sales, Christopher was able to retire early and began construction on his Monte Cristo homestead. This home was a status symbol for the Crawley family and a social hub for the town's most wealthy. Now, despite all the glamour, the Crawleys are said to have been holding on to many many dark secrets and tragedies. Remember a moment ago when I mentioned that a young maid was said to have fallen to her death from the second-story balcony? Well, a bleach stain still remains where the scarlet life force was attempted to be removed, and footsteps can be heard pacing the top balcony in the middle of the night. Some even see the outline of a female figure on the balcony as well. The Crawleys themselves weren't immune from the, deathly Monte Cristo. Their youngest daughter, under a year old, died when her nanny accidentally dropped her down the stairs. Some claim it was on purpose, while others have ruled it as an accident. Feel free to let me know your theories in the comments. So the Monte Cristo homestead remained empty for over a decade after the last Crawley left in 1948. In 1963, Olive and Reginald Ryan purchased the now run-down manor for only about $1,000 Australian dollars. That's a bargain. Bone-chilling paranormal experiences were part of everyday life for the Ryan family, with Olive claiming to have had her name called out multiple times, only to find no one there. All of the offspring have also reported sightings of figures in old-fashioned clothes and have felt cold hands on their shoulders. Not the best place to grow up. In second place, we have the Aradale Mental Hospital. It's estimated that an astonishing 13,000 people passed away within the walls of the so-called Ararat Lunatic Asylum over its 140 years of operation, which made it perfect for today's list. So the now known Aradale Asylum was a psychiatric hospital in Ararat, a rural city in Victoria, Australia. So now considered a ghost town, the Aradale Asylum campus contains over 70 now abandoned buildings that once housed over 1,000 patients. As with many asylums of the time, it was meant to be self-sufficient and provide the patients, or inmates as they were referred to at the time, with labor that was believed to help in their treatments. Despite its closure as an asylum in 1993, the facility was used to house female prisoners during the renovation of the Dame Phyllis Frost Center. Now, while reports exist of apparitions, phantom sounds, visitors experiencing nausea, fainting, and pain, some ghosts from Aradale's past have made themselves known to those who are alive today. George Fittimont was the last governor, so in 1886, he was showing a group of people around the asylum when they started down a set of stairs. Suddenly, George fell to his knees, suffering a major heart attack, and passed on the spot. These days, tour guides and visitors hear heavy footsteps and banging on that same stairwell, but when they go to take a look, no one's there. Gary Webb was a career criminal and had a long rap sheet when he was finally taken into custody and sent to stay at Aradale. Gary got comfortable there and started to write letters to the media, telling them the inhuman and horrible things he was planning to do once he got out. Citizens began to worry, and a special law was passed to keep him contained there for the rest of his life. He began to self-mutilate at this time and was hospitalized over 70 times. He even castrated himself 3 times during his sentence. So today, Gary is said to haunt his former room, screaming at visitors to get out and pushing them out the door. Visitors to the hospital who happened to walk past the office of the former superintendent report a sudden bitter taste in their mouth. Would you like to know why? Of course you do. The superintendent ended his life in his office after swallowing cyanide. The rest of the woman's ward is haunted by a ghost named Nurse Carrie. She is said to watch over the tour guides. Her apparition, as well as others, have been seen in the woman's ward donning old-time nurses' uniforms and disappearing into stone walls. Other folks report a tingling sensation in their head when they enter what used to be the shock therapy room. In the J ward in particular, visitors report feeling ill and suddenly afraid. Others slip into a trance, only released from it when they exit the building. Some people have even been bitten or pushed while walking through the J ward. The ward is also said to, be haunted by 3 prisoners who went the way of the rope necklace and buried on the property. They are said to be restless because they weren't given a proper burial, and their graves are only marked with 3 scratches on the prison wall. Could somebody fix it and give them a proper burial? Please? In first place, we have the entire town of Picton, New South Wales. So according to my research, it's the most haunted town in Australia. But Picton is also known for its countryside views and paranormal gardens. The town is located about 80 kilometers southwest of Sydney and has a historical significance due to its buildings and railway tunnels. The Mushroom Tunnel, also known as the former Red Bank Range Railway, is our main focus for today. There are famous tales of ghosts drifting around the tunnel, with the most popular being linked with a terrible railway accident involving a woman named Emily Ballard. Apparently, when the tunnel was still in use by the railway, Emily had been walking through it and was killed by an oncoming locomotive. It is unclear whether she deliberately ended her life or if her death was just an unfortunate accident. Reports suggest people often witness Emily and 2 other women ghosts, and also hear some scary voices. Just some cryings and shrieks. No biggie. The apparition of Emily has been seen in the depths of the tunnel, and is described as a white flowing figure of a woman with no face. Many people have also reported a sudden drop of temperature, eerie shadows, gusts of wind, orbs, body chills, and many weird other things happening inside the tunnel. The tunnel was apparently used to store mustard gas, spray tanks, and ammunition during World War II. It was also used as a mushroom farm, ergo the mushroom moniker amongst locals. From time to time, black shadows or figures have been seen on walls throughout the tunnel. Some witnesses have reported white lights hovering above people's heads and figures appearing out of the darkness. Ghostly younglings have been witnessed, and electrical disturbances have occurred to devices in the tunnel. People have also felt, sudden drops in temperature. Oh, almost forgot, there is a ghost train hunting the tunnel, because human spirits aren't enough. During a tour group experience, one witness recounted that when they reached the tunnel, he said the entire group noticed a random light in the distance, and the sound of a steam train overwhelming the area. He said that everyone, including the tour guide, scrambled to hug the walls. And now remember, this tunnel has been inactive for almost 50 years at this time. The witness claims he felt the wind on his face as he closed his eyes and the train passed. Want to hear about a ghostie haunting the cemetery near the tunnel? Of course you do. Blanche Moon was a youngling who died in 1886 and haunts the cemetery. She was the daughter of Henry and Fanny Moon, and her father is believed to have been the timber worker who helped make the railway sleepers she fell off of while playing, which is the fall that led to her death. In January of 2010, a family visiting St. Mark's Cemetery snapped a photo apparently showing the ghosts of two younglings who died almost 60 years apart. And yep, you guessed it, one of them is believed to be Blanche Moon herself. The family claimed that there were no young people in the cemetery at the time the photo was taken, and that the figures of the two were only noticed when the pictures were downloaded to a computer. Other places in Picton rumored to be haunted are the Imperial Hotel, where many staff report the feeling of someone following them through several parts of the building, and at times, the jukebox begins to play, even though it's not connected to power. Wallandilly Shire Hall, which is reported to be haunted by 3 ghosts, including a bearded man wearing a hat and suit, a small mischievous boy, and a little girl, who is most often heard rather than seen. Stone Quarry Viaduct, where over the years many people have drowned in the creek. Locals have heard ghoulish sounds of people swimming and splashing in said creek. And finally, Emmett Cottages, where the ghost of a woman is seen in the window of the building, and shop owners often find their displays have been moved overnight. And that brings us to the end of our time, and I'm debating just how quickly I can get myself on a flight to Australia. Heck, there were so many places that are haunted that I didn't even have the time to mention today. So be sure to let me know in the comments if y'all want a part 2. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see y'all next time, you lovely spooky people.